Well, hey everyone, my name is Nathan Jones, and if you're new here, welcome. I like to talk about all things movies, specifically Blu-rays, and today it's time for another film journey, and this time we're talking with my friend Fish, the film collector. I can't talk right now. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Great. No, this is the first time we've actually officially talked face to face.
Yes, yes. Chit chatted on Instagram and stuff and comments and things. But yeah, first
Yeah, we've
time.
yeah, I was gonna say I've seen you in comment sections and also in live streams and it just there's a lot of mutual friends we have and I'm just super excited about meeting you and then having this conversation honestly. So
Oh yeah, no, me too. I'm excited. Yeah, KB is awesome. So yeah, I think that's how we met or got to get in contact with each other. So that's awesome. Friends bringing friends together. So
yep, and I was just up to Kansas City and then harassed him on his 1 year anniversary. So that was a lot of fun.
that was a great stream, by the way. You guys, I love when people can get together and chit chat and have a good time and actually physically hang out, not
Yeah,
just like the yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and
This is great as well, yes, because when COVID hit, this is all we could do. So people got used to it. So it's a nice little thing.
yeah, and I would, kind of add to that bit because where I feel like that's where this community really kind of blew up is because of COVID, honestly. Because a lot of us were, probably just doing our, 9 to 5 kind of day-to-day thing. Some of us would maybe put out content, obviously still. But the connecting thing, I feel like really amplified once COVID happened, which I think is that's a positive thing from that. So
Oh yeah, no, definitely. Oh yeah, once again, like I just said, friends bringing friends together, interacting, networking, just chit-chatting, getting to know each other. It's fantastic. Yeah, it's what I do. I'm a server, so I meet different people every day, or sometimes I get regulars and I meet the same people every week. But it's nice. It's another form of kind of that. So
yeah. Well, before we jump into this, I wanted to give you the platform to really just kind of explain on what you do on the different social media apps and kind of what your channel's all about too.
okay. Yes. Hey guys, Fish the Film Collector. Right now I'm a smaller channel. Right now I'm only doing like Blu-ray hunts on Tuesdays. I do unboxings. I've done a few movie reviews. I hope to start doing more of those coming up. I'm also on Instagram. I on Instagram I just mainly focus on what I'm watching for the day, or if I've my collection for the week, I'll post a picture of what I got for new releases and stuff. So yeah, just keeping people up to date on what I'm watching on that end. But I just started my YouTube, I think within the past like 9, 10 months. So fairly new, but I'm reaching that 1 year mark, which is crazy because I never thought I would do this actually. So it was actually, I believe Ken and Dave Durant were the ones that I first started watching when I started doing this, and they were doing hauls and or like hunts, and I was like, oh, that looks cool. I can probably do that. It's easy enough. Take my phone, walk around Best Buy or vintage stock, and people seem to like the vintage stock ones. So, because a lot of people don't have vintage stocks around them, and then
Right.
each vintage stock has different stuff. So that's cool. I like doing that, showing people different things. But yeah, that's basically what I'm doing right now is yeah, just hunting and hauling.
Well, I had a good. I mean, I still do those things on my channel, but it's a lot more rare for me. But I used to do that all the time, especially with vintage stock. I mean, you bring that up because we're nearby each other, and so we have vintage stock in the Midwest, so it really is kind of it's a cool store, even though sometimes the prices are a little not so great. But at the same time, it's like I would rather have it than nothing, right?
Right. No, absolutely. Yeah, no, because I know so many of us collectors that their Best Buys have like gotten rid of physical
Yeah.
media or even their
None.
Targets and
I have
stuff.
none.
And
I have none here in
yeah,
Spokane.
see,
Yeah.
it's nuts. It's nuts. And me personally, I know a lot of us do actually go to and pick up and have in our hands and inspect and look and check it out. And we love that. And when you do that online, you're up to whoever's picking it up and tossing it in the bin, as it's going out the door. You're up to them to hopefully give you something decent. So
Yeah. But no, well, I love your content, and like I said, like it's been a recent discovery for me, but I've been enjoying the ride, and when I see you on Instagram and stuff posting things, I always try to give it a like, and I also like that you're jumping into the ABC Movie Challenge too. So
yeah, yeah, no, that one I always find it hard to like try to find something to watch, you know. I think we all just some of us just will go into our collection and man, what do I want to watch tonight? And just sit there and stare at it. You know, just stare at it and we're like, and then we'll go to a favorite of ours and not watch anything new. So when you posted that, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, let me jump on this because there's so many things that I have that I've not seen, and there's so many things that I want to. So, and they're just chilling, collecting dust. So,
yeah.
might as well pull them off the shelf and throw it in the player.
I just finished Cleopatra myself this morning. I know you watched that as well, right?
Yes, I started to. I have to
Started
go to
to.
work, but I have not finished it yet. It's a daunting one.
It's a daunting, yeah, for sure.
But and man, yeah, yeah. I need to finish that because yeah, yeah.
I called you
It's
out,
yeah, no,
but
it's fine. It's
no,
fine. You
you're
know, I'll
good.
as long as it's crazy because in my mind, if I started that day, I posted on my Instagram, I've started it that day. If I have to run off and do something else, at least I know that I started it and I know I will finish it because it's it's actually just sitting over the player right now because I had to pop back in because I did want to watch Dragon's Lair. So
Yeah,
yeah,
well,
that one's only an hour and 40, so right around. So
which is a
that
much
one,
more
that one's a little
manageable.
quicker watch.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, I don't recommend people being like, "Hey, every week you need to watch a 4 hour movie." But
Right, right.
no,
Well, see,
that's
I kind of did that one to myself because I was over on Mega Mike the Movie Man's channel, and we had goals for the month or for the year that we wanted to touch on and stuff. And one of mine was actually watching some epic classic movies. I've only really seen like Ten Commandments. I wanted to check out like Ben-Hur, Cleopatra, Spartacus, and some of those sweeping,
Lawrence of
yeah,
Arabia. Yeah.
movies. Yeah. Lawrence of Arabia, yes, definitely stuff like that. So I put those 4 hours on my plate. So I just gotta start diving in.
Well, I'm excited to see your choices and then also see the journey because, like, obviously at the end of the day, like, there's no time limit for this thing. I just, I just like seeing people kind of tackle like what their viewing habits are, honestly. And it's that dust on the shelf thing that I'm like, okay, maybe I should pick it up a little bit. So it's
Right. And then there's so many like so many classics like I was saying, but then so many modern movies that I haven't seen. There was a point in time where I really didn't go to the movies. I really didn't watch a whole lot of anything. I worked late nights. I worked at a bar, so I wouldn't get off work till about 4 in the morning. Sometimes. So movies kind of fell by the wayside. I still enjoyed them and would watch them every now and again if something like came out that I was really super excited about. But yeah, I'm having to play catch up now. Now that I've got a real somewhat semi stable I don't work till 4 anymore kind of thing.
that's good. I mean,
I have a little more
obviously,
time.
obviously, our schedules, I feel like are like, especially as we get older too, like we need to start getting into more habits, or at least we have like a routine of sorts. And so like whatever time you can carve for this thing, which is a lot of time commitment, and also making videos, right? Uh
Right. Yeah.
anyway, whole thing. Well, I did, when we start this whole thing, I like to ask this before I jump into the whole thing, but I think you kind of hit on it a little bit. But what are some of your current watches? Obviously, Cleopatra, you're in the middle of. You just watched Dragon's Lair. What else have you been watching recently?
Let's see. Let's see. Oh, well, because of Tim's list challenge, I've been watching a lot of 90s movies. Bob over at Bob's Blu-rays, who is a mutual friend of ours as well. He has been doing Remembering series, so I've been taking part in a few of those. So I've been watching a lot of Paul Walker, and then recently Brittany Murphy. So And yeah, so I'm excited whenever, like I said, I need to focus. I need to focus. Somebody like, hey, gives me a subject or something to focus on, or an actor, an actress, or something. And I'm like, okay, here we go. I'm going to start watching these. And then, yeah, it's a little easier. But like, I believe last year, Ken over at Mid Level Media was doing um, Western Month or something like that. So, like, focus. A little easier to yeah, to pick something to watch when you actually have like, okay, here's a genre, and then just go to town on that genre, or
Mhm.
so. But yeah, that's what I've been focused on recently is 90s movies, Brittany Murphy, Paul Walker. So yeah, so it's been a great journey, revisiting some old favorites and also watching some new stuff that I've never seen. So,
Yeah. Well, that all sounds like a lot of fun, honestly. And you're right. I think having the push from other people or just having like some kind of curation, like kind of goal, I guess, the checklist or something. I don't know the right verbiage, but I think that's what really kind of drives a lot of us, honestly, to just keep going with this thing. I mean, honestly, I think I don't know. I've noticed this common thing with all of us is that we're just constantly wanting to watch new and old and different things and just constantly want to like learn about the medium.
oh yeah, definitely. Because I love film. I love movies. It's an escape for I believe all of us. Uh, it's just it's fun. It's fun. I love it. It's been a passion of mine since I was a kid. Very first time I watched Star Wars, brought it home, popped it in the VHS player, and watched it at home for the first time. That was my first introduction to physical media. Besides of course the 8-track tapes in the car and stuff, or the
Oh,
record
yeah.
player sitting over in the
Throwback.
corner. But
Yeah.
yeah, visually seeing something, yeah. But I did go to the movies. I remember watching E.T. when I was little. Watched that in the theater, and so just a spectacle of film was always wonderful.
Yeah. I want to dig a little deeper into that because that leads to the first question is that earliest movie memory. With physical media, you saying put that VHS in, that was that like one of your first memories? Just
Yeah, watching VHS tapes. Having brought something home, we were all excited. You plug it or cook everything up, pop that movie in, and it comes on, and yeah, it was awesome. I love that. But like I said, I do remember watching E.T. in the theater. It's crazy because it came out in '82, and I was 4, probably going on 5. And for me to kind of just a little pieces here and there, it's not the full movie in my memory. Obviously it is
right.
now because I'm older,
You've
but
seen it a
you
couple
know,
times. Yeah.
yeah. But just that I remember the beginning with the ship coming down, and of course the Reese's Pieces, and for some reason after that I was like, I don't know, subconsciously Reese's Pieces were always in my mind as a movie snack. So that's my go-to.
That was the ultimate goal of Steven Spielberg with that movie, I think, is just to put Reese's Pieces in kids' minds. Oh
I mean,
man,
he must have owned stock in it or something, because
he must have. He must have done something there because yeah, and now yeah, it was so you can't separate the two like that movie from that product at all.
right,
Uh
absolutely.
yeah. Well, I was gonna say, speaking of the '80s, do you have like you said going to the theater, watching some VHSs. Do you have any like any standout memories or like anything you remember, like family member wise, or like did they take you to the movies? Like, was there somebody in particular that kind of got you drawn to this medium in general?
Oh, well, I don't remember who took me to ET. I would probably say it would probably be my grandma and grandpa, but they're the ones who raised me, so I'm assuming that's who took me. But it was weird because I fell in love with Nightmare on Elm Street early on. I think I was probably 6. It had probably just recently come out, and I got to watch it. Probably shouldn't have been watching it at 6, but I did, and I loved it. I fell in love. So I was old enough when Nightmare on Elm Street 3 came out. I think I was in the
Dream
third
Warriors.
grade. So Dream Warriors, it's my
Yeah.
favorite because I actually got to go to the theater to watch that one. And actually, it's weird. My grandpa really didn't want to go to movies, probably especially not that one. So he brought me up to the ticket booth, asked what time the movie'd be over, walked me inside, gave me money for snacks or whatever, and said I could come back. So I that was the first movie I remember going to by myself. So
Wow.
Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors by myself, just chilling, watching Freddie do his thing. So that's one of my first memory of a movie by myself. Which is a cool one. He did actually go to Exorcist 3 with me, and that recently came out on 4K. And that I don't know if you've seen it, but that jump scare, there's a
Oh
jump
yeah.
scare there,
In the
and
hallway.
yeah,
Oh yeah.
yeah, it's the one that that's the one that solidified like horror for me because it was like just like
Yeah.
shock and jolt of the yeah. But uh, yeah, I remember my dad taking me to T2. Wonderful, wonderful times. My mom and I love this movie. It's weird. It's a movie called Indian Summer. Um, it's got a great cast of some wonderful actors. Excuse me, Lane, not Ladd. Diane Lane, Bill Paxton. Oh man, uh, geez, I can't. Alan Arkin. Sam Raimi's in it. Oh man, Kimberly Williams, just a fantastic cast. But my mom took me to see that, and that's the only movie that she and I have ever seen in the theater together. So that one holds a special memory and place in my heart. So yeah, I love going to movies. I really do. So it's probably wonderful that I actually found a job in one. So
Yeah, I was gonna say what talk more about the kind of how where you're at currently, I guess, in that space in general. Like I guess you said you mentioned your server over there. Um
yeah, I'm a server and a bartender. I work at a Regal Cinema here in Tulsa, or actually in Broken Arrow. But yeah, it actually started out as an independently owned cinema, and it's called Warren Theater. I believe they have one up in Kansas City, or
yeah, and I think was it Warenberg or is that different?
I'm not sure.
Hmm. Anyway, but yes, I know of the name. Yeah.
Yeah, Warren Theater. He's got a couple here in Oklahoma, and I think a couple up there in Kansas City or in the area. So, anyways, he sold ours to Regal, and they've done changes and stuff that a lot of people weren't happy with, but it is what it is. At least we still have serving. So I work upstairs in a 21 and over area. So we have a full bar, and we have six theaters up there, four director suites and two balconies. The balconies are fantastic. That's my favorite place to watch a movie because the screen is 300 by 500.
Oh
So
wow.
yeah, it's huge speakers. Yeah, oh man, it's fantastic. I should give a little tour one time when I'm at work. I might do that later on today. I've got to work today, so you're like, hey guys, this is what I was talking about. Yeah. But yeah, no, I love working there. We just recently opened it up to alcohol downstairs, so which is kind of weird because I got to wristband people and send them on their
Yep.
way.
I used to be a bartender. On occasion I still do to help out, but I know all about the whole wristbanding and checking ID
Oh
and
yeah,
all that stuff. And I'm like, man, the amount of stuff that I've seen pulled over the years is just really funny.
it's nuts. It's nuts. People try to get away with so much stuff. Like I said, I used to work at a bar called Fox and Hound, and UFC nights were a really big night, and like people would sneak in. People would clear out, and then like because it'd be standing room only, and then everybody'd leave after the fight, and you start cleaning up. You find liquor bottles and all kinds of stuff people brought in. I'm like, really, guys? Come on now. So
Yeah. Then again, like, and I'm admitting guilt right now, but I mean, there are several times that I would go into like an AMC with a friend or two and have a couple of shooters. I
me too.
will. Yeah. Okay. So I'm not the only one, and I
No,
hope
you're not. You're not.
Uh, well, I hope
Yeah.
watching this also we're able to do something like that, or at least not get in too much trouble, right?
Oh man, it's crazy. I remember one time me and a bunch of girlfriends went and watched Six in the City when it first came out, and we ran to the liquor store and grabbed some rum, and we just, all bought some cokes and just passed it on down the line, and then we filled our cups up till it was empty, and we sat it down and on the floor, and it was one of the quietest moments in the movie, and it just so happened one of us kicked it, and it went boom, ting, 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 ting.
Yeah.
Everybody's in the food. cracking up because it was the quietest moment in that movie, and of course it happened. But
Yeah.
yeah, so tried to be slick.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, you can do your best. I mean, I have a couple movie memories, at least going to the theater and things getting knocked over. So, but I like to not live that trauma. So, I was gonna say, obviously that's what you're doing right now. But like, speaking of kind of the stuff in the middle, when you're growing up, I know you mentioned in the '80s and '90s watching some of those movies in theaters and whatnot. Um, was there like a moment in you growing up in the '80s and '90s? Was there like a moment where you're like, hey, I'm gonna start collecting this thing, or was there anyone in particular that kind of pushed you towards the fact that like you're still in love with this thing?
Oh wow. Oh wow. I don't know if there was anything in particular. I think it was just the fact that, we could have it at home, you know. Um, I'm not sure. I can't even remember the first VHS tape I bought. That's nuts. I can remember my first DVD and my first Blu-ray, but I can't remember my first VHS. Um, I know I had a lot because I loved movies. And I had some weird ones too, because stuff that like I don't know, maybe a 12-year-old wouldn't normally watch. Like some World War II movies and stuff like that. Well, I mean, modern World War II stuff set in the 90s, but or from the 90s, made in the 90s, I should
Right.
say. Um, but I don't know. I think it might have, man, getting Jurassic Park on VHS was fantastic. Having to watch over and over. And it didn't make my list, which I'm kind of which I'm kind of kicking myself in the ass for. I mean, it was number one, whatever. It didn't need my vote, so
It was number
but, yeah.
it was number three on my list, I think, of mine. It's either number two or three. I can't remember. People who watch my channel know it better than me. When I
Right, yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
see, that's why the other night, yeah, they were putting Ken on the spot, and it's like, what's Fish's number 12? I was like, man, I don't even know my number 12. I
I
forgot what that
I have
was.
I can watch my video and tell you at the time that's what I was thinking.
Right. See, that was the thing. It was like it was constantly switching for me.
Yeah.
Jurassic Park was on there, then it was off, and then it was on, and it was off, and I was like, okay. Now I watched it a lot when I was younger, but what are the ones that I have consistently watched over and over? And those are kind of the ones that made my list. The repetitive and the fact that I love them and I can put them on at any time, and or I could see them on TV at any time and stop and be like, all right, this is what I'm watching today. It could be in the middle of the movie. It could 20 minutes left, and I'm like, oh, I gotta watch these last 20 minutes.
Yeah, no. Especially those movies. I was gonna say, especially those movies where you know it front and back, and you can just put it
Oh
on
yeah.
anytime and be like, yeah, I know where I'm at in the movie. So
Oh, man, it's weird. I love quoting movies. I use I use them in conversation.
yep.
It's crazy. Me and my sister, well, I call her my sister. She's my best friend for like 20 years. We will sit there and quote Will and Grace and have a conversation with Will and Grace quotes. It's funny.
I love it. I do something similar with a couple of shows, usually Always Sunny or Toast of London, which is more of a recent acquisition of mine that I'm just obsessed with. But with my best friend, he lives in Canada, but um, anyway, it's just we don't have original thoughts. We're just quoting things at each other the whole time. So um,
Oh, who needs to think for themselves? Come on
yeah,
now.
just have fun the whole time, right?
Exactly.
Um, I know you mentioned that you had you remember like your first DVD and Blu-rays. What I guess talk about that transition from VHS to DVD. What did that look like for you? Did you have a pretty substantial like VHS collection, or did you?
I did, and plus I also had stuff that I taped. You had
Yeah,
those
yeah.
VHS tapes that you could tape, your movies or shows or whatever, and I had a lot of those. You could stack 3 or 4 movies on there if you did
Six
it
hours.
right,
Yeah.
um, so I had a lot of those, but I did have a lot of physical as well. But I loved packaging. Most of it was original artwork from the movie poster, so I always thought that was really cool. Transitioning over to DVD, I thought was so cool because CDs were a recent thing, so that was cool. You didn't have to, if your tape broke, you didn't have to grab your pencil and kind of
Hmm.
little there or tape it back together, and then like you got a little skip in the song there. So well, yeah. But yeah, no, I thought that was amazing, having that first DVD player. My first two is crazy. Mallrats and Disturbing Behavior were my first two DVDs that I owned, and they're two of my favorites still to this day. Mallrats made my list pretty
Nice.
pretty high up there. So I love Kevin Smith, one of my favorite directors. He's
I like
fantastic.
Kevin a lot too. So
Yeah, and what he's done, he's you got the comedy of the Clerks and stuff like that. But then I love Chasing Amy. Chasing
yeah,
Amy is one of my favorite movies ever. I can't believe that didn't make my list. I was like, all right, I got to whittle this down. All right, it's either Mallrats, Chasing Amy, or Dogma, and I went with Mallrats because of the whole. This is my first one that I owned, and kind of thing. But I do love Chasing Amy. It's fantastic,
yeah, I do
and
too. I think
it
90s were the best for Kevin Smith because I mean those mentioned all the ones you just mentioned plus Clerks like and Dog was my personal favorite, but like man, like yeah, all those movies are great. Like all four of those. I think
and
that's his best decade.
it was and it is. It's fantastic. And I love the fact that you've got the glue holding it all together, Jay and Silent Bob. They may not be featured fully. You know, in Chasing Amy, they're only there for like 10 minutes, maybe. Just a little help the story along. Kind of thing. But they usher it along. So I love that. Those are the glue that hold this View Askew universe together. They're so good. They're so good, the two of them.
So I know just talking about Kevin Smith in 90s movies, was like that like I know you mentioned like Mallrats being your first DVD or one of your first DVDs. I was gonna say because that was right at around the turn of like to the 2000s. Eventually, you'd get to where DVDs would really become more popular. Did you transition from like a lot of like your VHSs to DVD, or was it kind of just like over time?
I kept a lot of my VHSs, but yes, I did transfer over, because they were more compact, obviously, a little bit easier to carry around,
Right.
um, lighter weight. But yeah, I did hold on to some of those VHSs. But one set in particular was a Bette Midler set, and it had Beaches and Down and Out in Beverly Hills and Ruthless People in it. And I love that set so much. I let a friend borrow it and never got it back.
The
But I
dangers.
love that. I carried that around through the years, and it was just up until like 4 or 5 years ago that I lost it. But yeah, I held on to a lot of my VHS, not so much anymore. I do have some tapes that have some stuff taped on them,
Mhm.
but I recently did buy a VHS tape at Vintage Stock because everybody's getting back into it, and they're only $1, so why not?
Yeah,
I grabbed Bad Girls on VHS, so I don't know if you've ever seen that.
I've heard of it. I've never seen it though. But
It's a fun western, a female led western. There aren't many of those, and it's pretty much all female cast. Yeah,
that's my
yeah,
favorite right there. Johnny Guitar. So
yeah. Oh, Joan Crawford,
mhm.
fantastic screen legend. Love her, love her.
I wish I got more back into the VHSs. I have some nostalgia for it. But it's weird because like I do the opposite with music. You know what I mean? Where I want to go back to vinyl with records, which is what I do with music. Which because it is a better format than like a digital download or whatever.
It is. You hear everything. You hear, I mean, like people are like, I don't like the crackle. And I'm like, man, that's the crackle.
That's
I
the
mean, you hear
that makes it
everything in
authentic.
it, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
but it's the opposite with movies. Like for me, like I want the 4K, I want the Blu-ray. Like I really want to get rid of all my DVDs, except for like all the TV shows that aren't available on Blu-ray. But I do have a couple of VHSs. I feel like horror movies are like the best when it comes to like if you're gonna get VHSs like horror movies because I understand because like a lot of us watch those movies as that was the case, and that's how we remember it. So
Right. Yeah, no, fantastic. Speaking to that core movies, the grit and the grain of the, watching it for the first time in that format, that's what your eyes remember. So when you watch it, I can see a lot of people's complaints with like 4Ks now when you're watching like Friday the 13th or something like that. They're like, it's too clear.
too clean.
It's too much. And I'm like, well, I mean, I can see that, but we're used to, you know, tracking and giving that
Tracking,
yeah,
yeah.
having to fix itself or yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what old school are used to. We're like, something's off. But I actually love it because a lot of the directors are getting involved with the 4K restoration. So it's going to
Yeah.
be truly their vision of what
Or the
that movie
cinematographer.
looks like. Or the cinematographer,
Yeah.
absolutely, definitely. Or the two of them together. And it's
Yeah.
fantastic. Because this is our vision. This is what we meant for you to see. And I just love that. So yeah.
Yeah. I guess going back to the DVDs into Blu-ray, and I'm mentioning because Blu-ray wasn't too far after DVD.
Oh,
Um,
really?
yeah, I was gonna say, what was your first Blu-ray?
Um, so I bought a PS3. Was it PST three or two?
Three had
Three?
the
Three.
yeah,
That had
three
the
had
Blu-ray player.
yep,
And that's the only reason I bought it.
yep.
It was for the Blu-ray player. Now in that I had the option if I wanted to buy games. So, it's that. So, but I specifically bought it for that. So it was Sony. So I believe in there I got like since I bought that, I got like 3 or 4 free Sony Blu-rays from them.
Yeah, like a
So I
bundle.
picked out a couple. I picked out 4 of those. Oh my gosh, I remember 2 of them specifically, but I can't remember the other 2. Patriot, Patriot with Mel Gibson. That was one of my first Blu-rays, and Casanova with Heath Ledger. For some reason, I snatched that up. But yeah, I can't remember the other. I know I still have them, but I can't remember what they were. Yeah.
That's wild.
But yeah, so those were my first 2 because I bought the PS3 and yeah, they were free. You know,
Yeah, they came
that
along
price
with
tag
the
came with those movies. Yeah,
right. Exactly. It's like, hey, here, it's been what like because when that came out, it was expensive. Like,
and yeah, I waited a little bit, but
okay,
yeah, it was shortly thereafter. It come down a little bit, but I was like, yeah, I want to jump on this. So
can I? Because
I
when
think it
I
was worth.
when I remember it came out, I want to say it was around $500. And
I think I had to let it get down to like about
yeah,
3. So it was still early on, but it had come down. Some of the newness wore off, but
right.
it was still up there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's a throwback, to that time period in my life too. I did video game a lot during that time, but I really don't anymore now. But yeah, no, that would be, I think, a lot of the reasons. I think that probably is the most popular Blu-ray player is probably the PlayStation 3. Because most people you can have that dual, usefulness out of it. So why not?
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's why, and I did eventually buy a couple games. I did. What was it? Oh man, it's like Tekken. Was it Virtual
Tekken
Fighter?
5.
Virtual
Tekken.
Fighter? Yeah,
Oh,
or yeah. I bought a NCAA March Madness game because I love college basketball.
no,
But yeah. Oh,
don't start
Heavenly
on
Sword.
basketball.
Oh, wait, sorry.
Don't start on basketball. I'm
Oh.
gonna jump in because I love it. I love it.
Yeah, big college basketball fan, but
Oh,
not a huge pro. I do enjoy watching it, of course, especially when Oklahoma City got a team. So,
yeah.
got a little more invested in it because, before that we didn't really have anything pro. Really didn't have it. No, we never had anything pro. Yeah.
No, yeah.
So
I was gonna say
yeah,
the
Thunder was
Sooners
our
pretty
Thunder's our
much
thing. So,
football was Oklahoma, like the Sooners, and then basketball too. Yeah, I was
yeah,
saying college was what
college. Yeah.
Oklahoma had. Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. And then if we wanted a protein, we had to latch on to a surrounding
Some
state.
state
So,
around. Yeah.
so growing up, it was Kansas City Royals for baseball.
Yep.
Um, for football, it was Dallas Cowboys.
That's
So I can hear
right.
the boos already in the.
Yeah.
But that being said, I really fell off of pro sports. As I got older and really latched on to college. And the reason was that for me, college, they were not all those kids are going to go pro. A
Yeah,
lot of them are playing for scholarships and just to get through school and to get a degree and just
there's a
move
little bit more
on and yeah.
intent in their
So
play. I feel like
so
it's
and there's more passion in it too, I believe, So yeah. So that's why I enjoy high school and college sports. I still have nieces and nephews that are, doing things that are yeah, fantastic. So yeah.
yeah,
But yeah, sorry, I had a little
you're
tangent
good.
there.
No, no, I always love I love things that are outside of this. I mean, I'm sure I don't know how many people are watching, like thinking, like, okay, move on from this.
Move on, move on.
But like a lot
Enough
of
with
us,
the
I mean,
foosball there.
yeah, like yeah, foosball's the devil. So anyway, so I guess segueing back into the conversation, when did like this become like like what is behind you? Like, did you know kind of the when it became like I'm going to collect these a lot? Was it in the 2010s or were you doing that the entire time kind of?
I was pretty much doing it the entire time. I've always had a pretty decent DVD collection. It's not just been, oh man, really, really within the last, I want to say, a little over a year and a half where I've done this and another stuff next to me, and then of course like stuff piled up on the floor too because I ran out of shelf space and stuff keeps coming out every week. Um, Yeah, but yeah, so I've always had a pretty nice DVD collection, which I still have a lot of it. I don't even 300 and something DVDs still, I believe. That a lot of them that I've upgraded. Um, but yeah, um, I don't know. I've always loved movies and always and the fact that it's true to this day right now with streaming, you can't always get what you want. So my physical, I always have it, and I can watch it whenever I want. You know, I don't have to wait for it to come on TV, or I don't have to, you know, I don't know, wait for it to pop up on something. It's right there, and I know that's what all of us love about that aspect of this. So that's always been that part for me is being able to watch it when I want. So that's, and then man, okay, another thing, I love special features. I'm a very big special features guy. I love commentaries. I love behind the scenes. I'll watch a movie once and then I'll watch it right after with the commentary. I'm that guy.
I wish I had the time.
I love learning about that stuff, especially when actors get involved in commentaries. It's so much fun because they'll fit chat and stuff, and they're like, "Oh, I remember this," and they'll talk, and yeah, it's so much fun. I love it. That's another reason why I physically love having the movies that I have because there's special features on there, and you don't always get those with streaming and stuff. So yeah, yeah.
Is there any particular commentary that stands out to you? Like, do you have a couple favorites?
Um, yeah, I do. I hate that it's on these, but it's the Star Wars special editions have the commentaries with like cast and crew like Carrie Fisher and stuff and George Lucas. And those were always fun to listen to because I love that. And then James Cameron's T2 commentary is really I love that because I think that's one of the first movies that I saw are where special effects were just kind of in your face and they were so cool. No, don't get me wrong. I love, love, love physical, practical effects and physical makeup and stuff like that. But for the time, it was just so cool to see T1000, form and stuff. So
Yeah, all that
and
metallic stuff.
yeah,
Yeah.
and the way they had it mirror the opposite what the surroundings was so cool. So yeah, kudos to Industrial Light and Magic for uh, making our childhoods fantastic. Um, but yeah, so yeah, like I said, I love commentaries. There's also a great one on Chasing Amy because it's Ben Affleck and Jason Lee and Jason Mewes and Scott Mosier and Kevin Smith, and they're all just hanging out, just talking about
Probably just
chasing Amy.
probably just drinking
Um,
beers and talking about chasing Amy.
right,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. So I mean, they actually have, I think, all of Kevin Smith's movies, if not all, most have commentaries with like, if not just him and Scott and Jason, but like a few other people sprinkled in. So yeah, I love those as well. So.
Well, he's a big fan of physical media anyway. Because I mean,
Oh,
I think I just bought because I just recently got Clerks 3 a couple months ago, and I watched it for the first time, which I actually quite enjoyed. It was a nice little throwback to all those times we just mentioned with the '90s. Any of Kevin Smith's movies really, because they all reference each other. But I remember on that particular Blu-ray, they were like, "Hey, thanks for buying the Blu-ray of this," and I'm like, "You don't get that. You don't get that like special little introduction very often from very many things, and so you can tell when they do care about it. So it's
oh
cool."
yeah, no, absolutely, and and I'm sure he hates the fact that a lot of his stuff is tied up with licensing issues and stuff. Because I'm pretty sure he would love for everybody to have a 4K Dogma, and or even an upgraded Blu-ray. So,
Right, one that's not
uh,
hard to find for a lot of people. Luckily, I have mine, but I got lucky. So,
man, I found it in vintage stock for $89.
ooh,
Just couldn't pull the trigger.
I got mine
I
for
was like, I love it, but I'll keep my 2 disc special edition DVD that I have with a little slip box. I'm good.
Well, it sounds like your vintage stock is keen with the times because I've definitely gotten a few things where I'm like, oh wow, this is out of print and they don't even know it, and I'm like, I love that. So
Yeah, I've actually found some goodies for Bob at our my vintage stocks, and he's like, "Oh man," because I there for a while he and I were FaceTiming, and I was like going through and showing him stuff as I'm walking through the store myself, and he was like, "Oh wow, dude!" And that's how our swap happened because he had some stuff that he went through his collection. I was like, "Ooh, yeah, that." He was like, "I got an extra of this and this," and I was like, "Oh, cool, cool." And he started looking for me, and I started looking for him, and so yeah, that was pretty fun doing that. I enjoyed doing that. Just a little movie swap, just even across the board,
yeah,
no.
yeah. At,
So
at least at least it's fair, and we're not just like, hey, go spend money on this. Even
right, right.
so, well, hey, I guess switching gears a little bit. I'm sure you've probably already mentioned some of it. But like, what are some of your favorite films that you've watched over the years? Like ones that like are classics to you, like that have been around since early times, but or just some of your favorites right now.
Oh wow. Okay. Let's see. Recently, I watched 12 Angry Men for the first time, the old school. I'd never seen it.
57. Yeah, good.
Yeah, the black and white with Henry Fonda and stuff. Oh man, that movie was so good. That's become a new favorite of mine, going back old school. I've always loved Joan Crawford, and Betty Davis. So when you get them together and whatever happened to Baby Jane, and I
Yep.
love that. That's so campy and so fun and so fantastic, especially when you know what the behind the scenes was like for these two screen legends. That movie's so much fun. I love that one a lot. Um, man, like childhood growing up, like I always loved Indiana Jones. So Raiders is my favorite, and then you go for me, it's Last Crusade and then Temple because I just love the interaction with him and Sean Connery. They're
Hmm.
so fun together. Um, oh man, horror wise, I love a good horror movie. Man, I'll take Nightmare on Elm Street over Friday the 13th, but I do enjoy them both very much. And
Hmm.
Child's Play, the first three. Well, I haven't watched anything past those. Not a Seed, not a Bride, no. And what's crazy is I love Jennifer Tilly. She's fantastic. But I don't know. And then of course the number one on my list, Dazed and Confused. That movie's fantastic. That was high school for me. Well, not
The
76 high
whole
school, but
yeah, that
when
was
it
our
came
whole
out
high
was
school
high school for
experience.
me.
I just
No,
I
that was
love
high
the
school for my parents.
yeah, yeah. I was gonna say it's always funny watching those like not even just that, but like thinking about like American Graffiti or like
Mhm.
everybody wants some like in those similar veins, but like just watching like a high school movie or like even like any John Hughes movie. So like it's like
Right. No,
was this how how school was
right. Was this really the 80s? Because I was born in the 70s, grew up in the 80s, so I was elementary school. Was this what it was like in high school for you guys? I was like, because um Clueless, Can't Hardly Wait, those were kind of, things that came around high school for me. I'm trying to think of some others. I just recently watched 10 Things I Hate About You for the first
great
time.
movie. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. I had a lot of fun with it. I can't believe I can't believe it took me this long to watch it. But yeah, I love coming of age stories. Stand by Me is right up there at the top for me. I love that. It probably is my favorite coming of age. River Phoenix, rest in
Yeah.
peace. Gone
Not
too
too soon.
soon.
Yep. Yep.
Oh man.
Jinx.
Oh.
uh, but yeah.
Oh yeah, he's one of my favorites. Yeah, so I really, really love his short but fantastic filmography. He's spoilers for
Great in
Last
this.
Crusade. Ah, fantastic, fantastic. I love that. I love that.
Just had it right there.
That doesn't get a lot of love.
Oh, yeah.
Not a lot of people know about My Own Private Idaho. I love that one. Keanu Reeves, River Phoenix, Flea.
Mhm. Yeah. What a
um,
crazy combo of people.
right,
Yeah.
right. And watching the behind the scenes on that one as well. Have you watched the back the home video footage that they shot and
Yeah,
stuff?
yeah. It's been a while
Yeah.
since I've seen my copy, but when I did watch it, I did watch the behind the scenes stuff, and I thought that was really unique because you don't really get to see that kind of. I mean, it's kind of like I mean, I haven't seen it yet, but it got me thinking of the Val Kilmer documentary that he just recently put out. Just
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
because he did a lot of he. I mean, this is just footage of all the things he was doing and then making of and that kind of stuff. I like that kind of stuff where just like people just hanging out, like, hey, let me just record what we're doing right now.
Right. No, absolutely. Oh, what's funny is I love documentaries, so I hope we can segue into this a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah, for
But
sure.
I love documentaries and like stuff like that. So Soleil Moon Frye, who played Punky Brewster in the 80s, he actually had a documentary on, I think it's, oh man, I can't remember, it's on Hulu or Netflix. It's on one of those two, Hulu or Netflix. Um a 90s kid, or oh man, I wish I could remember the name of it. I just watched it the one time, but it was so good because that's when home video cameras came out, was in that time. So her being a young kid star, she was walking around everywhere, everything was on camera. So when she built this documentary together, it has a lot of footage of her on set and stuff, and just hanging around with friends from young Hollywood days, So that was really cool to see. I love stuff like that. It's really like you were talking about, people just walking around, just filming every day, things, and or behind the scenes. So that's sorry.
No, you're good. You're good.
Yeah,
No,
continue, but yeah, that Val Kilmer, I have not watched it yet, but
I haven't either. So
yeah.
mentioned
So, but yeah, I'm really interested in that. And then Robert Downey Jr. just did one about his father recently that I really want to check out.
me too.
So there's a lot of good stuff out there, documentary wise. But yeah. So
Well, I know. Speaking of kind of some of those actors that you mentioned, and also I know you mentioned Joan Crawford and Betty Davis, of course, but what are some of your favorite people that you like to watch just on screen? Like, do you have any favorite actors or even like favorite directors that you like to follow?
yeah, of course Kevin Smith we've been talking about a lot, but I love Tarantino as well. I love Quentin Tarantino. Not a huge filmography, but once again, they're all fantastic. Um, I say that, I say all. I have not watched Jackie Brown. I have
Oh,
never
so
seen
good.
Jackie Brown. Yeah, I've never seen Jackie
Recommend.
Brown. So I've seen everything else, except for that. And I've even seen, and True Romance is one of my favorites, and it's not even his technically. I
Right.
mean, he sold it to make Reservoir Dogs, but he wrote the screenplay and it has him all over it, and
Hmm.
that's his movie. I know Tony Scott may have directed, but that's his,
Yeah, I agree.
baby. But yeah, a couple favorite directors there. Actors, I love Harrison Ford. I love watching Harrison Ford. Um, and actresses, Natalie Portman and Julia Roberts are up there for me. I love everything they do. So I've been watching Natalie Portman since Leon the Professional,
Yeah,
and then
yeah, she was incredible in that.
yeah. So to see her in that and to see where she's come, Academy Award, and fantastic, fantastic filmography. I love her, and the fact that she was doing stuff while going to school at Harvard and getting a degree, and
Right?
she's fantastic. I love her. She's
How do you do
wonderful.
that?
Right.
Oh
She's
man,
so good.
I
She's
can't
so
even
good.
imagine. And I went to university myself, and I had multiple jobs, but one of my jobs was teaching. So and eventually that became my job. Not anymore, but I can't even imagine being in movies and having to memorize lines and having to coordinate schedules on top of taking classes and, and keeping up
Right,
with that.
right,
No,
right. And still having a social life too,
oh,
just
right.
yeah, it's nuts. But yeah, I commend her and she's fantastic and I love her. So yeah, those are a couple of my favorites. Oh man, yeah, but yeah, so many films. John Hughes, I'd like to touch on him because he's fantastic. I love him. He was my childhood. 16 Candles, Breakfast Club, Weird Science,
Hmm.
Some Kind of Wonderful. He may not have directed that, but he's all over that one too. Pretty in
Yeah.
Pink. You
Yeah.
know,
A lot of the movies that he wrote, you can tell.
yeah,
Even if he didn't
yeah,
direct it, I'm like, this is your movie, man.
yeah, yeah.
So,
Uncle Buck.
oh, Uncle
I
Buck's great.
love. Oh man, another rest in peace. Gone too soon. John Candy. I love John Candy. John Candy is one of my favorites. I love seeing him on screen.
Yeah.
Um, he was always fun. Always a good time. I don't know if you've ever seen Armed and Dangerous.
Mm.
That one's a good one. Him and Eugene Levy. I'm a little fuzzy on the beginning, but I think they wanted to be cops but couldn't get in, and ended up being security guards and working for the security firm. And Meg Ryan's in it. I forgot Meg
Okay.
Ryan was in it. But it's an '80s movie. It's fun. It's over the top. Oh my gosh, it's. Oh, I'm remembering a couple costumes that they wore in yeah, in this movie. It's so good. I need to get that. I need to own that. Why don't I own that? But yeah, see,
I
thank
need to
you.
watch it. So,
Yeah, no, check it out. It's so much fun. If you can find it somewhere, definitely check it out. That one's a lot of fun. Armed and Dangerous. Yeah, I haven't, yeah, I thought about
I'll
that
write
one a
that. I'm
lot.
gonna write that down. Actually, you know what? I haven't done this, but my last guest, Goose, he actually brought this up when he was talking about some of his favorite movies. But I thought this would be really cool. This is brand new, so if if you get thrown off, it's okay. But I kind of wanted to also ask, like, if you could bring like one recommendation, like like something like Armed and Dangerous, like what would you recommend to me, like a movie, like obviously there's a million, we probably have all seen different things, but like maybe
Right,
something like it, like Armed and Dangerous, where it's like it's this special movie that not very many people talk about, but like
right.
what would be one that you would recommend besides that?
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
Two on the spot.
No, because I mean, I was actually thinking about this the other day because in KB's conversation, he talks about five of my favorites, and you pull out five of your favorites, and then like later on, you start thinking you're like, oh, I should have talked about this one, or should have talked about that one, or um, but oh man,
Oh, we
okay,
can circle. We can
it's
circle back around.
it's
Oh, you
no,
found
no, no, I got okay, so I wanted to talk about this one. It's a movie called All the Marbles. Um, it is. Have you heard of it?
No.
Okay. It stars. Oh my gosh, why do I always forget the girls' names? Okay, Lauren London, uh, Peter Falk,
Okay.
and oh my gosh, sorry. Oh my gosh, Frederick's their last name. Jeez. And see, and I want to talk about it,
You're
and I
good.
can't even remember the actors.
What's
Um,
what's going on?
okay. Anyways, okay. All the marbles. It is a movie about a female tag team wrestling.
Ooh,
Uh,
okay. I
duo.
used to watch
so,
wrestling all the time, so I'm in
so,
already.
and Peter Falk is their manager. And it gets physical stunts are top notch. Kudos to these ladies because it looks like they're really going at it. Especially some of the falls and stuff. I loved wrestling growing up.
Me too.
So that's one of my favorites that not a lot of people talk about. It only has a DVD. It is a Warner Archive DVD.
Oh, okay.
So so I believe it is still available. It's not very much right now. I believe it's only $9.99, so pretty decently priced. I don't own it yet. I have a bootleg copy that I found before the Warner Archive came out because I wanted it so bad. I was like, why don't I have that? It has to be something. But when I got it, oh man, that thing it looks so VHS taped. It like yeah, it actually had little tracking lines. Speaking of from earlier, it had tracking lines on it. So yeah,
Certain
somebody
bootleg.
but at that time I was like, whatever, I own it. I can watch
Yeah.
it whenever I want. So now there is a Warner Archive. I do need to upgrade. But yeah, that's it's such a fun movie because it shows them going from nothing to, trying to get their chance to go for the championship. So it's such a good movie. I really enjoyed it. So
Sounded.
it may not be like Oscar worthy or whatever, but it's one I remember putting pillows down, off the sofa all over the floor
Hmm.
and watch this movie and do all their
The
flips
stunts, the
and
flips. Yeah.
stunts and yeah. So that's
Uh,
how much I love this movie. I used to act it out. So it's a lot
yeah.
of fun. It brings a lot of great childhood memories for me. So
Well, I'm gonna add
all the
that to my list.
marbles.
All the marbles. I'm gonna add it to my list, and I think I'm gonna start doing that more on these film journeys. I'm gonna start asking people like, what's this weird movie that you remember that you would recommend that not many people talk about. I think that's great. I love it. So I'm adding
Yeah.
that and the John Candy movie in there too. But when I watch this again, I can write it down. So
Nice. Okay.
um
Awesome.
um
Yeah, no, do that. I love when you do that because, obviously me as being one guest, somebody else might offer up something that I've never heard of. And I'm like, oh man, I'm going to check that out. So yes, awesome. Please keep doing this. Yeah,
yes, no,
fantastic.
I'm excited to do it. So circling back weirdly to those directors that we were talking about, and we mentioned Kevin Smith and whatnot, and Tarantino. Would there be like a director that you would like to work with if you were ever in like a film or like an extra or behind the scenes, whatever way you want to work with this filmmaker? Who would you want to work with?
Oh man, those two definitely. What's crazy is I almost could have gotten my shot with another one. Scorsese filmed uh, Killer of the Flower Moon here in Oklahoma. And so they had open casting calls for it for Native Americans. So I actually,
Hold on. What the heck?
um,
There, the internet's there. Sorry.
you're good. You're good.
Can you start? I think you were talking. Just say that. Talk about Tarantino again. Sorry,
Okay.
or Scorsese. Scorsese. Sorry.
Okay. Oh yeah. Okay. Let's see. Of course, I'd love to work with Kevin Smith and Quentin Tarantino, but I almost got a chance to work with another one of my favorites, Martin Scorsese. He filmed Killer of the Flower Moon here in Oklahoma, and they had an open casting call for Native Americans. This was back when my hair was down here, so I thought I was prime for the part. It was set in the early 1900s. So I did go out for that. So that was an almost chance. I do have my niece. um, is hopefully, yeah, I believe she's still in it. She filmed some scenes with Leonardo DiCaprio. So I think that's cool.
That's awesome.
Whenever that comes out, I will definitely be watching that. Not just because, my niece is in it, but the subject matter is, it's close to home,
Mhm.
obviously. But yeah, so I almost got that chance. So that would have been really cool. Uh, yeah. So
Wow.
Scorsese would, yeah, that would be another one. He's great. I love his filmography as well.
Yeah, he's a legendary filmographer. Sorry, director. And I just love how I mean, like, obviously stuff like this, his foundation and whatnot, putting out movies, from around the world. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that I love that he, backs up because like he has the capital to do that. And like, unfortunately, you have to have people with money like that to put stuff out like that, and to fund things like that. But I love the things he's done for just world cinema in general. So
Yeah, with that being said, also he's a big believer in restoration and keeping film alive. So, man, he did this interview on CBS Sunday Morning, I believe, where he was talking about how he's funded film restoration and stuff like that, and some stuff has been lost. Uh, they've had to piece stuff together to make a film from like all over the world, just flying stuff in from pieces, hey, I need this from this movie and stuff, and like building it back and then making it watchable again. So I love that. And I love him for that because as physical media collectors, we should all, thank you very
yes,
much
yeah.
because because without some of his efforts and a lot of efforts of many others, we wouldn't have what we have. So
Yeah, and I hope like in the like 50 to 100 years from now, like when hopefully, I mean, obviously, a lot of these things maybe won't be as good. Because I know there's, disc rot is a thing with DVD, and I'm sure
right,
eventually there's going to be some processes where some things kind of, lose their luster or their use. But I hope that these things, we can, use these to be like, hey, like if you can't find this film, like, well, there's a couple thousand of us who might have it, and like we can, help with that in some regard. I would love to do that, even though it's not like the original, right, or anything like that. It's just like
right.
it's another
Well,
copy of it.
right. Yeah, I totally agree. I totally get that. Yeah, because we may not have the original print, but we'll have something to pass on,
Hmm.
to carry on this. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, no, yeah, yeah. Sorry, he's yeah.
You're good. You're good. Now I'm gonna give you a tough question now.
Okay,
So this is,
sorry.
this is always the toughest one. I always like to ask is, if your life was a movie, what would you have your title as?
Oh, life is swimming. Just keep swimming.
Just keep swimming?
I know I'm stealing that from Dory, but that's just got to keep going. Uh, it's a little play on the fish thing too. So obviously, but
Yeah, it helps. Yeah, no, I like it.
yeah. So but yeah, you know, choices you make in life may not take you where you thought you were gonna go or where you would end up, but you swim in the directions that you want or you choose to, and the journey is it's fun because when I graduated high school I went to OU and I went and wanted to double major in pre-med journalism and very lofty goals. um I dropped out. I got away from home and realized I wasn't ready. I partied a little hard and you know dropped out and then started living life and it I worked at music stores, I worked at video stores, I did construction. I finally ended up working in an Outback 20 years ago, actually 20 years ago this year. So, and I've been doing this ever since, and I love it. I love it. I love it because it's funny because I was also always a very introverted person, very wallflower, didn't talk. It's which is so funny because I have a YouTube channel now, and and I'm doing interviews and like hanging out and doing live streams and. But yeah, in high school, perks of being a wallflower. Yeah, just that very shy, quiet, very just small, close knit group of friends, and then as I got older and came out of my shell, and serving helped me with that because I had to talk to people. That my money depended on it,
Right.
and then became a bartender, and that's how the fish came along. I never used my last name. It was always Andy, and then to make myself a little more stand out, a little more memorable, I started using fish, when I bartended. So that's how, I started using my last name. And that's how most everybody knows me now. And a lot of people don't even know my first name, that I work with, when they find out, they're like, okay, that's weird. And I'm like, I
I
mean,
just I'm not gonna
yeah,
I'm gonna keep calling you Fish. So
yeah, yeah. And then there's some people who can't call me Fish. They're like, that I can't
too
call you
weird.
Fish. I'm like,
Yeah.
that's fine. I mean, you can call me Andy. It's my name. I'll answer to it. Yeah, yeah. But yeah, just keep swimming. Just keep moving in the directions.
Well, I like the title of your would be movie, right? I think it's very fitting, obviously with your story and but I also just love the meaning behind it. So I think that would be a great film. So yeah.
Thanks. I don't know how exciting it'd be, but yeah.
Yeah, a lot of us are probably like if I did, I feel like if I ask this, I keep asking this question to everybody, like and if we did have video like movies, it would be a lot of us would just be sitting around watching movies. That would be like our like okay, how do you do a montage of that? So
Wait, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Oh, just yeah. A montage of the movies, just little clips,
yeah,
laughter, sadness, crying,
yeah,
yeah.
friends, it's
Yeah.
just sitting there alone sometimes, just watching like
Mhm.
a movie that means a lot to you, and just like yeah, it would be interesting. So
Or I go to the movies by myself,
I do too.
so
I do too.
so sitting in a theater by myself, but yeah, I like that though. I like that going to a movie by myself. You don't have the pressure of whether or not the other person is enjoying themselves.
Yeah,
If I'm having a good time, I'm having a good time. If I'm not, I'm not.
yeah, and there's you're
And
not beholden to the other person. You're like, hey, if I'm not having a good time, I can leave, or I can watch the rest of this and be like, okay, that wasn't for me. So
right, right.
yeah,
So, but yeah, no, yeah, like you said, just a lot of this probably
yeah, yeah.
with a
um,
little club days back in my 20s probably mixed in there. So yeah, so the 90s, yeah, the late 90s were my 20s. So yeah,
well,
a lot of
my early 20s. I'm in my really early 30s now. But my early my early 20s were a different time. So I understand. I think everyone had their 20s phase.
yeah, that's what I've always said. Your 20s are for going out and partying and hanging out and getting all that out. Um, 30s a little more for kind of
Settling
settling
down.
down.
Yep. Mhm.
Your 40s, your 40s, you pretty much kind of know who you are and you kind of settled in and
I'm
some
looking
of
forward
the
to it, weirdly enough.
yeah, and you look back on things and you're like, done some stuff.
Yeah, I've done some stuff. Well, as we're talking about life, just in general, like my final question always revolves around this medium in general. But I was gonna say, how has this medium really changed the way you interact in life, or just how your outlook is? Like, has this affected the way you interact with people?
As far as like collecting movies or like
Just
the
just being around movies, like collecting, watching, film, etc.
I've always loved talking about movies. Not everybody likes to talk about movies. If you talk about something that you have in common. Not everybody has the passion to talk about, movies in general and love movies. So I've always loved talking about this and actually being able to find others, in a community to be able to talk with this stuff over, just who also have a great passion for filmmaking and, film in general. So yeah, I've always just loved talking about movies and like I just said, to be able to find like minds and to be actually introduced to new stuff as well, in conversations and from those conversations to lead to actually becoming friends and talking more than just movies and like actually talking about life,
Hmm.
talking about what's going on in your everyday, how your day was, what's going on, how's your family, you know. I love that this has opened up that to me as well. Because it starts out it's talking about, hey, who's your favorite director? Or, oh, have you seen this movie? To um hi, how are the kids doing? And
Yeah, yeah.
how was vacation? I saw that you just got back. Stuff like that. So I love that the this medium, the film movies, has opened that aspect to me as well. Meeting new people and making friends and stuff. So I've loved that. I've loved that part of it. So.
Well, the feeling's mutual. So I mean that's I think that's what encompasses this entire thing is like, what I always enjoy about these conversations is just hearing people talk about what they like and then also at the same time, meeting new friends. So, um yeah, I was gonna say what do you have any final like thoughts about this whole thing?
No, no, I've had a great time. This was so much fun. Yeah, like I said, like you know, being able to share not just my love for film, but also being able to talk about, hey, I also love sports, and there's other aspects to me than just the film lover. I love other things, but it seems like we just because we do collect these, it's like just kind of what people mainly focus on. But I love this openness and be able to just chit chat and talk and just be able to wander or just swim wherever it takes you. So
Yeah, yeah.
so
How
thank you very much
aptly
for
how aptly titled.
so thank you very much for allowing me to hang out with you for a little bit. I've loved it. I'm glad I made a new friend and hopefully we can meet up someday, hang out with KB and
Oh yeah.
hopefully get Bob to come down or something and
Yeah, that'd be a
just
lot of
have a good time. So yeah, I and that's another thing, people talking about meeting each other and like getting together and stuff. So that's also also awesome. So gosh.
fun.
But yeah. So like I said, thank you very much for having me today. I really had a great time.
Well, I appreciate you jumping on this and saying yes, and that's always the gamble I always like to throw out when I ask people, and yeah, no, I have such a great time listening to all these stories and hearing your love of the medium and then love of life, it seems like right now. So but I hope everyone else who's watching this right now has also enjoyed the conversation, and let us know in the comment section down below what you thought. And I was going to say, take it away one last time, Fish. Where can everyone find you?
I'm on YouTube at Fish the Film Collector, also on Instagram, the same handle, Fish the Film Collector. Right now, I'm a little channel doing my movie hunts and hauls and unboxings and a few reviews that I hope to do more of. On my Instagram, I'm showing you guys what I'm watching for the day a lot, and then just posting what I'm collecting for the week. So thank you very much, Nate, for having me. I had a great time. I hope everyone else did as well. Uh, Thank you very much.
With that being said, everyone go in the description down below, follow Fish there on all those socials and whatnot, and also let us know in the comment section what you thought. And yeah, as I always like to say, Give it a like, comment, share, hit the notification bell, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. I'm not jonesing around.